All right, welcome back for another deep dive. You know, listeners really threw us for a loop this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they sent us down this, like, super specific rabbit hole, huh?
Oh, I like rabbit holes.
Yeah.
What is it this time?
Well, the Videoton TV-Computer. Ever heard of it?
The TVC.
Yeah, the TVC. From, like, 1980s Hungary.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, like, picture this, right?
Okay.
The Iron Curtain, like, it's up and strong.
Right.
And while, like, the West is going bonkers for Commodore 64s, right? Hungary's, like, quietly,
Doing their own thing.
yeah, making their own moves in the home computer game.
It's a fascinating story,
Yeah.
It's innovation, but under some pretty unique constraints.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're really lucky, actually, because we have some insights directly from Manak Sultan.
Oh, cool.
He was one of the developers, worked on the TVC at Videoton.
Wow, first-hand account. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like, so how did Videoton even, they're this major electronics company. They make, like, TVs and stuff.
Right.
How do they even, like, get into making home computers?
Well, from what I understand, from what Zoltan says,
Right.
they were, the idea had been floating around Videoton, I think as early as like 79, 80.
Really?
Yeah, it's early.
Yeah, they were already producing calculators, so they were aware of what was happening in the West.
Right, yeah. You'd think they'd just like jump at the chance.
You'd think, right.
But Zoltan mentions that like the initial proposals were actually like shut down by the company's leadership.
Really?
Why would they hesitate on this?
Well, it's tough to say for sure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you think about it, it probably had a lot to do with the political and economic, like, realities of the time.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, Hungary, they were part of the Eastern Bloc.
Right.
So, I mean, these decisions weren't, like, just about, oh, is this a good market opportunity?
Right.
There was a whole, like, web of government priorities and how they allocate resources and stuff.
So, like, maybe they just weren't convinced home computers were, like, a priority in socialist Hungary.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a good point.
Plus, I mean, think about it. Even if they wanted to get their hands on Western technology, Western components.
Oh, right.
Huge challenge, embargoes and all that.
Right.
It might have just seemed, I don't know, too risky, too complicated.
Right. Too many headaches.
Exactly.
But then, 1984, things change. Like, big time.
So,
Zoltan describes this, I guess you could call it a chance encounter
okay.
at a chess event
Okay.
of all places.
Interesting.
Yeah. Between Videoton's commercial director and a rep from a British company called ISL, which I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it stands for like Intelligent Software Limited.
Interesting.
So this meeting, like, it seems like this was like the turning point,
Okay. So, because suddenly Videoton has this, like, potential partner, who has experience with, like, home computer design.
Yeah.
And it's, like, wild to think about, right?
Yeah.
A British company willing to collaborate with, Hungary, which is behind the Iron Curtain,
Yeah, during the Cold War.
Yeah.
That is kind of like spy novel stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
A very unique situation, for sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Zoltan doesn't really give us a lot of details about ISL itself.
Oh, okay.
But clearly, like, this collaboration was, like, huge for Videoton.
Yeah.
Especially given how, like, Eastern and Western companies, they didn't interact much back then.
Right, no.
Yeah.
So Videoton joins forces with, this, like, kind of mysterious British company.
Yeah.
And the development of the TVC, it begins.
Okay.
But I'm guessing, it wasn't, like, all smooth sailing.
You guessed right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Zoltan really paints this, like, vivid picture of challenge, like the technological embargo on Western components. It was just like this constant hurdle.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I mean, imagine, right? Trying to build a cutting edge computer, but you can't get the latest chips, the parts you need.
Oh, that's a nightmare. Talk about a design challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did they have to, like, make any big compromises?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They were constantly, like, having to substitute
Oh, okay.
Western components with whatever they could find, like domestically.
Right.
Zoltan even suggests that the ISL designs, they weren't always as precise as, the Videoton engineers were used to.
Ooh, really? Like a clash of, engineering cultures.
Yeah, kind of. But also, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
They had to be incredibly resourceful to, make it work.
Totally.
Yeah. It speaks to the ingenuity.
Yeah.
And how adaptable the Videoton team was. They couldn't just, open a catalog, order parts. They had to, invent workarounds.
Oh, wow.
Solutions using, whatever they could find.
Wow. So they were dealing with limited access to technology.
Right.
They have to bridge, a cultural and, technical gap with their British partners.
Exactly.
Can you imagine trying to collaborate on something like this back then?
I can.
No email, no video calls.
Zoltan mentions that communication with ISL was mainly letters.
Really?
Yeah, and maybe the occasional telex.
Wow. Can you imagine the delays?
Yeah. I know. Every, design change, every question.
Right.
Back and forth. And who knows how reliable that was.
Right.
Right.
And I bet, those letters were, getting looked at.
Oh, for sure.
Pretty heavily.
Scrutinized.
But yeah, by the authorities,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's wild to think about how different the pace of development was back then.
Totally different world. It really makes you appreciate,
Yeah.
the dedication and perseverance of everyone involved.
Totally.
Working under those kinds of constraints, and they still pulled it off.
Yeah.
But those constraints weren't just external.
What do you mean? Beyond the embargoes and the communication stuff?
Exactly.
Right.
Zoltan also talks about some, internal challenges.
Oh, just
He mentions the mechanical engineers.
Oh.
They were used to working with, metal components.
Right.
Suddenly, they're thrust into this world of plastics.
Yeah.
Which was, relatively new for electronics manufacturing back then.
That's a good point. It's, easy to forget how big of a shift that was.
Yeah.
To using plastic.
Totally.
Lighter, cheaper, more versatile.
Right.
But yeah, I bet it was a steep learning curve for them.
For sure. Different tolerances, material properties, not to mention the whole, quality control issues.
Yeah, right.
Zoltan mentions that getting consistent, good quality plastic components, it wasn't always a given back then.
So they're basically learning on the job.
Pretty much.
They're dealing with new materials, new designs,
right.
Limited resources. It's like trial by fire.
Yeah, baptism by fire, for sure.
What about the software? What does Zoltan say about that?
Well, he admits, he wasn't directly involved in the software development.
Okay.
But he mentions that the software team was actually led by a woman.
Oh, wow.
Pelag Ulane.
Okay.
Which is pretty remarkable, for that time.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be so interesting to, learn more about her experience,
Yeah.
Sadly, history often overlooks the contributions of women in tech.
It really does.
Especially back then.
Yeah, for sure.
Zoltan, he also shares this, kind of funny anecdote about his colleagues, getting super into video games during software testing.
Wait, so even in Soviet-era Hungary, people were getting, hooked on video games?
Right, apparently.
That's awesome.
It's this little detail that, I don't know, it humanizes the whole process.
Yeah, totally. Humanizes it.
Reminds us that, amidst, all the political tension, the technological hurdles, people are still people.
Exactly.
Yeah. It also, speaks to that universal appeal of video games, right?
It does.
Even behind the Iron Curtain.
Right.
They had this power to, captivate people.
For sure.
Makes you wonder, what those early TVC games were like.
I know.
Were they just, clones of Western titles?
Right.
Or something totally unique?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Sadly, Zoltan doesn't, give us specifics about the games themselves. But speaking of, fascinating stories, there's that incredible anecdote about Gorbachev getting a TVC as a gift.
Oh, yeah.
When he visited Hungary in '86.
Yeah, I love that part of the letter. It's just a throwaway line, but pure gold.
Historically, yeah. Imagine that the leader of the Soviet Union presented with this, Hungarian home computer.
I know.
Developed with a British company, no less.
That's crazy.
That's Cold War, technology, politics, all wrapped up in one.
It really is.
It wasn't just a gadget. It was like a symbol.
Yeah, totally.
Do we know why they chose to, like, give Gorbachev a TVC?
It's not stated explicitly, but it seems likely they wanted to, like, showcase Hungary's, like, technological capabilities.
Oh, yeah.
Demonstrate they could innovate, compete, even within, the constraints of the Eastern Bloc.
I wonder what Gorbachev even thought of it,
Right.
Like, did he see it as a genuine achievement?
Yeah.
Or just some curiosity from behind the Iron Curtain?
I mean, we can only speculate, but it definitely highlights, that technology was, like, super politically charged back then.
For sure.
And get this, Zoltan mentions that they even developed a special Russian version of the TVC.
What?
Yeah, specifically for Gorbachev.
Wow, so they went through all that trouble for one very important user.
Right.
But the story doesn't end there, right?
Yep.
There's also, like, the tale of those unreleased expansion cards.
Oh, yeah.
The what could have beens.
Yeah.
That could have taken the TVC to, like, a whole other level.
Totally, yeah. Zoltan describes these, like, planned but ultimately never released expansions.
Okay.
Specifically, he mentions a sound card and a sprite graphics card.
Hold on. For those of us who, like, weren't around in the 80s and aren't, like, computer experts, what are sprite graphics?
Yeah.
And, like, why was this such a big deal?
Okay, so sprite graphics, it basically means, like, you can display and move small, detailed images independently on the screen.
Okay.
So think of, like, characters in a video game or, objects moving around.
Okay. I see.
This was, like, cutting-edge stuff back then.
Yeah.
And it would, like, totally transform the gaming capabilities of the TVC.
So they were trying to make it, like, even more competitive
That's it.
with what was out in the West.
Yeah, they weren't content with, like, just making a basic machine. They wanted to, like, push the boundaries, offer something truly innovative.
Yeah. So did it work? Like, did they ever get those cards working?
Zoltan mentions they had, like, experimental versions.
Oh, okay.
But they ran into some technical challenges.
Yeah, I bet miniaturization, right?
Exactly. Technology was, like, way bulkier back then.
Oh, yeah.
They were trying to cram all that functionality onto a single chip.
Right.
Which was, like, really difficult back then. And then the mystery deepens.
What do you mean?
Why were these cards never released?
Yeah, like, what happened?
Zoltan leaves us hanging.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So was it, like, technical roadblocks?
Yeah.
Or production issues? Or, like, something else entirely?
Unfortunately, Zoltan's letter doesn't, give us the answer.
Oh, okay.
We're left to speculate. Maybe the tech just wasn't there yet, or maybe, the political climate, the late 80s.
Oh, yeah, things are changing.
The Iron Curtain starting to crumble.
Yeah.
Maybe that played a role.
It's easy to imagine, like, shifting priorities, economic uncertainty.
Yeah, for sure.
Could have led to, like, the project being shelved.
Possibly.
It's a shame because those expansion cards, they could have, like, changed everything for the TVC.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe you could have become, like, a major player
right.
in the home computer market.
It's a real what-if moment.
It is.
But even without those expansions,
the
TVC, I mean, it's a fascinating story.
It is.
Yeah.
So, wow, we really went behind the Iron Curtain there.
We did.
Explored this, like, wild East-West collaboration.
Totally.
It's a story of, like, innovation against all odds.
Pretty much, yeah.
What does it all mean? Like, what are the takeaways?
Yeah, good question.
From this this deep dive into the Videoton TV computer?
I think one of the biggest things, at least for me, is that, technological progress, it's not always, like, linear.
Yeah.
Or predictable.
Right.
We often think of, like, the West leading the way in computing.
Right.
But the TVC, it shows that, like, innovation, it can happen anywhere.
Right.
Even in places facing, like, some serious challenges.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It really challenges, like, our assumptions about, how technology developed, like, during the Cold War.
Exactly.
It wasn't just this, like, one-way street from, west to east.
Right.
There was this, like, exchange.
Yeah, for sure.
There's, like, cross-pollination of ideas.
Totally.
Even if it was, like, a little more, under the radar.
Yeah, clandestine, roundabout way.
Right, exactly. In the TVC story, it also highlights, like, how important, human ingenuity is and adaptability.
Totally.
Like, these engineers, they had to constantly come up with, like, creative solutions.
MacGyver it.
Yeah. They were, like, making their own rules.
For sure.
For the game, Makes you wonder, like, if those limitations, maybe they actually, like, breed that creativity.
Yeah,
they couldn't just, like, grab a solution off the shelf.
Totally.
They had to, like, think outside the box. That's such a good point. Like,
yeah.
Constraints breed innovation.
They really do.
And it's something like, we can all relate to even today.
Totally.
Right? Like whether it's limited budget, tight deadlines, limited resources.
You name it.
We often do our best work when we have to figure things out, get creative,
For sure.
The TVC, it's a reminder that limitations, they can be the mother of invention.
Yeah. Love that.
And speaking of invention, those unreleased expansion cards.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of bittersweet,
Yeah.
What could have been.
What ifs.
Yeah.
It really makes you think
yeah,
how things could have been different.
Totally.
For the TVC.
Right.
If they'd been able to really push it.
Yeah. Further. Yeah.
Could it have been bigger than Hungary?
Right.
Could it have gone toe to toe with the big Western computers?
Right. It's wild to think about. Maybe those cards were just too far ahead of their time.
Could be.
Technologically.
Yeah.
Or maybe all those political and economic shifts in Europe in the late 80s.
Yeah, for sure.
It just made it impossible to keep going,
It's hard to know for sure.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were even trying these things, it says a lot.
It really does.
About how ambitious the Videoton team was.
They weren't just content with making a basic machine.
No.
They wanted to make something truly innovative.
Yeah.
Something that could compete globally.
For sure.
It's kind of sad that the TVC isn't better known.
It is.
It's such a cool story.
That's yeah.
Innovation, resilience, and ultimately unrealized potential.
It really makes you think about how we remember technology,
Yeah, for sure.
The TVC, it's no Commodore 64.
Right.
It's no Apple II.
Yeah.
But it's just as important,
Yes.
just as fascinating.
Yeah.
It's crucial to understanding how computers evolved.
So we'll leave you with this thought. The next time you hear about a big tech breakthrough, remember innovation, it doesn't always happen in the obvious places.
Right.
Sometimes the coolest stories, they're hidden,
They are.
just waiting to be uncovered.
Waiting to be found.
And those stories, they often tell us something really deep.
Yeah.
About the human spirit.
What's that?
That drive to create, to explore.
Yeah.
To push the limits of what's possible.
Push those boundaries.
Yeah, even when it seems impossible.
Yeah, I love it.
So we hope this deep dive, into the Videoton TV computer, it sparked your curiosity.
For sure.
About the hidden histories of technology,
I hope so.
And who knows, maybe you'll go out and do some digging yourself.
Yeah, get out there, explore.
And if you find anything cool, about the TVC or any other forgotten tech story, let us know.
For sure.
Until next time, keep exploring